For thousands of years, in a galaxy far, far away, movies have made us laugh, made us cry, made us feel extremely awkward
when watching that sex scene with our parents.
Let's all talk about films with a few guys you could just chill with. If you find a plot hole, they'll fill it right here on BRB Flix. Flix is a podcast for the silver screen. Yoshi rage quits while Jitterbug screams. Dave tries in vain to steer this machine, but the show digresses like it has ADD.
Welcome back. It's another exciting BKR. We're still talking about Goodfellas. This is part 3. It's a good movie, so I can justify that. It like Timothy Olyphant. It is justified, and you know what goes well with Timothy Olyphant? Pistols. And it goes well with pistols, pistol whipping. And you know what follows up a pistol whipping very well? A wedding.
A wedding, yep.
Well, no. You're skipping a great scene where he hands her the gun, and then she has the line of...
she says she's turned on.
Yeah, she has the line of, I know most girls, like my best friends, would as soon as their boyfriend handed them a gun, they would have broken up with him or whatever. But I gotta admit, it turned me on. I love that. That's great.
She's all
because it gets you
seduced by
right
it.
into her head,
Yeah.
and it feels like, hey, I'm admitting something. Listen, I'm just telling you the truth here, and this is how I felt. And it validates her voiceover, in my opinion, that one part.
Well, and her authenticity, too. Yeah, that's realistic, authentic, whatever you want to call it. You're like, oh, I'm hearing something I'm not supposed to hear. This is why the voiceover is here. Awesome. Okay, cool. I'm with you, Scorsese.
I don't know if you guys have seen the Louis episode to where he's sitting down for pizza with a girl, and then these thugs come in.
And then he doesn't stand up to him.
Yeah, and then they leave, and she's like, I'm sorry, I don't feel good about how I'm feeling, but I'm just not into you anymore. That is sort of the same thing to where it really feels like you're seeing something that's true. You know, women don't want to admit, and boy, am I being, somewhat sexist here, but women don't want to admit that this sort of thing gets them. But the dominant guy coming in and protecting them, yeah, that turns me on. It just, maybe there's a lot of women out there that'd be like, no, this part of the movie I completely disagreed with, and I hated Henry Hill from this point forward. But in my opinion, most women...
Well, when a guy tries to rape you and your boyfriend doesn't beat the shit out of him, then you can talk.
But I feel like most women would kind of be like, that would do it for me. I'm sorry to say, but yeah, a guy protecting me. Well, and I know how sensitive a lot of people on our website are about, women and feminist issues.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Inside joke on that one, but all right.
There are women on our website? Fuck that.
Dude.
No, I'm not talking about the women. That's the weird thing. I'm not talking about the women. The women don't have that problem at all. Women are great. All right, we should move on.
Right. Yeah, so there's a wedding. Mazel tov. It's a Jewish wedding with a bunch of Italian people.
Yeah, and one thing they don't get across in the movie either is that Henry Hill actually became Jewish.
Well, he did have the yarmulke on.
Yeah,
so I figured.
Yeah, he actually he became Jewish for his wife and for his wife's family. So
there's that line where she's like, "Oh, you're half Jewish." He's like, "Only the good half." When he's first meeting the mom, that's
great.
I love the way he plays it off again. Just the greatness of Leota in this movie can hardly be understated. Or overstated. Excuse me. I said that backwards.
Yeah. The wedding's all full of Pete's and Paulie's, and they're all married to Marie's, and their daughters are Marie's.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's the whole thing. Like it's weird because you feel like there's all this stereotyping going on, but it feels like authentic, so you're kind of okay with it. Like it's a weird mixture, just like what you were talking about with the last scene, where you're like, that's kind of sexist, but I think some women do enjoy being protected by their man in that way. And again, I would say that's a primal thing too. Like that idea that the big alpha male is going to protect the woman, and then potentially later on the offspring, from any harm, is like that kind of fits into the way that human beings have progressed through time. So it feels natural. It feels like a lot of this gangster stuff is like very base and primal, and that's why society doesn't like it, and then that's why we kind of relate to it, because we're like, no, I know what that feeling is. I don't act on it because I'm part of society, but I get why they would do that. I
dated a girl, and she was like second generation from Italian or from Italy Italian. Like her grandmother came over on a boat, and you know she went through Ellis Island and all that, and she had some cousins who were a little shady, and they were named Petey and Polly. And no, seriously, they wore like the track suits and they had the gold chains, and I'm like,
love that.
And I leaned, and you know she loved to watch movies, and I leaned over and I was like, so are those made men over there? And she's like, we don't talk about that. And I'm like, okay. Gotcha.
I remember I actually had a really bizarre experience where I had just started working for this company, and I flew down to Florida to meet with the new national sales manager, and he took me out, and we went to this pizza joint, and he introduced me to this guy that was there at the bar, and he's like, hey, you know, this guy's got stories. And we sat down with him at the bar, and it turned out that he was a mob guy that had been working in New York way back in the day when all the Gotti stuff was going on, and he was in those crews, and we spent all night, and he was just telling stories about all of it, and it was one of the most surreal experiences I've ever had in my life, and I felt unbelievably uncomfortable the entire time. Like, I really don't, you know, I love mob movies, love them, can't get enough of them. I don't want to be anywhere close to you. You disgust me. Like, that's the feeling I had during it. And it was bizarre, because like I said, I love mob movies, but that experience was just like, I really don't want to listen to your stories. Like, this is making me uncomfortable. I feel like
Did he take all the romance out of it for you, Jitterbug?
Totally. It's like he raped me, like George Lucas.
Karen and Henry move in with Karen's parents. And Henry stays out all night, and Karen's mother does not like it. Not one bit.
Yeah.
And she lets her know all about it.
I love Karen's reaction, you know, Dad! And then when
her Dad! Like, she's like a 16-year-old girl.
No, it's a total teenage. The whole thing is very juvenile. And even his beating down of this guy is, you know, I mean, this is not what normally happens, you know? If a woman is, you know, sexually assaulted or whatever, or assaulted in any sort of way, you contact the police. That's what normal people do. But like my high school students say, if they thought a guy was coming up on their girl, they might have a fight about it, because it's high school. Like, this whole scene strikes me as being so like, dude, this guy is so far into the mob, yet he and his wife act like teenagers who are like rebelling against their parents. It's very odd, like, contrast there. I don't know. I'm surprised that he doesn't pistol whip the mom at this point.
Yeah, because he walks in and she's like, "Where you been? We've been worried."
And he just leaves. I love it.
And he laughs.
Yeah. And then Tommy in the car is great. What's wrong with you? She's right. You don't act like this. Normal people don't act like this. You're crazy. I love Tommy's reaction.
Yeah, no, Tommy is great in this part, and you momentarily forget what a douchebag he is, because you're like, oh yeah, this is funny. He's great, you know. So yeah.
So next, Karen goes to hang out with the mafia wives. They like to get together and do each other's makeup and stuff and look at each other's herpes bumps.
Well, you know, my wife was, when she was watching the scene with me, she's like, oh, look, it's Jersey Shore. It's like, it's hilarious because she was saying also that because this wasn't her first time seeing this movie, but she was like, well, this is a great movie. I'll watch it with you again, of course. And she's like, She's like, I think about this scene when I think about the end of the movie, because when she's in this scene, when Karen's in this scene, she's kind of like, she doesn't really get these people or like their lifestyle, and then later on she totally becomes this lifestyle, even worse than it is, you know. I mean, at a certain point she's just, you know, doing lines of cocaine and putting, you know, guns in her panties, so she gets a little bit further on than these women even are, but she's criticizing them at this point, and then she's going to become the thing she hates, which is the old cliche. But it doesn't matter if things are cliche in this movie, because Scorsese makes them feel original and fresh. It doesn't even matter that, you know that this is what's going to happen. You're watching the scene and you're going, oh, well, she's going to become like one of these wives. You just know it. Like, there's no doubt. So,
yep, their makeup's on too thick. They have poor complexions, herpes, and yellow teeth.
Yeah. Disgusting.
Yeah, the one that she's just in there picking at her herpes. It's like, ew.
But you know what's funny about this, and I'm a big fan of Sopranos and the mob thing and all that stuff. And I think that the one area where all these mob movies and shows get it a little wrong is with the mob wives, because I've seen these women, you know, in like the Jersey Shore chicks. That is what these people are like, you know, and And they tame it down quite a bit in this movie and in most shows so that the average person can relate to them. But these people are, you know, they're way out there. These girls are really trashy, you know.
Their husbands are bona fide murderers. So like that tells you like, and the trade off here is the protection and the way they get treated, the money, like. The idea that they kind of don't care about their mistresses, the fact that she ends up caring about his mistress and getting mad about it. It's like it almost seems like, you know, this is just, you know, this is what it is. This is what you do. You know, like, why are you guys breaking my balls about this? You get another chick, right? And then there's that scene where Paulie has to like sit him down and be like, dude, no, you can't. You just let it lie low for a little while. This is getting too out of hand. It's like, yeah, these women are attracted to the power and the money and the drugs and etc. And like, if they're willing to accept that, as long as they're going to provide me with all this, they can be murderers, vicious fucking murderers and gangsters, and you know they're not going to be, you know, the upper crust of women. You know, these are not going to be like the, you know, oh wow, she's so great that she'll fucking marry a murderer. This is not that you're totally right. I mean, you have to compromise everything you know about morality to be with someone like this.
And then next there's a sort of a hodgepodge of video and pictures of, we'll call it the good times. Like when the quote-unquote family goes out on vacations and to dinners and they have their little holiday get-togethers and birthday parties and things like that. You know, the family, if you will. And then boom, it's 1970.
Well, and one thing that happens, I think this is where they start planning the Lufthansa thing. Is that right? Where this is... where that starts to get introduced, that they're going to plan out this major heist, and
no, not yet.
Okay. Well, somewhere in this area is when I just want to point out a camera trick that starts to happen. Scorsese starts to use a zoom in effect, where it almost feels bizarre that he uses it, and he only uses it when a character is about to do something drastic or is doing a plan for one of these hits, or it's an emotional kind of reaction that the camera has, and it zooms in on a character's face, and a lot of times it doesn't zoom in perfectly, it's not centered, it's a little to the left or right, and it looks like a mistake in certain areas. And I want to point it out because he uses the technique throughout the movie, and it comes into play a little bit later, and it's something that upon multiple viewings of this movie, if you're into cinematography, pay attention to that, because a lot of the scenes where it zooms in on a person's face, if you were sitting down in an editing room, you'd probably say, well, let's pick a different shot, let's not do that because it's a little too jarring for the viewer, but it's done for a reason because it comes into play later. It
needs to be jarring, and it also, I mean, even, I don't know what you're going to say comes into play later, but regardless of that, like, the fact that it isn't perfect is perfect for this movie, if you know what I mean. Like, if it was very, like, simply constructed, like you're saying, these things always happen in a time of peril or when they're going to do something drastic. It's like, it's almost like you're getting the snapshot that you would get, and you don't get another choice. You don't get like the perfect snapshot of it. You get it helps to, I guess, heighten the tension of whatever decision they're going to make or the thing they're going to do.
That's you hit the word on the head. It's tension, and I'll use Sopranos as an example. We talked about it several episodes ago about the very last episode of The Sopranos and how they use a subliminal technique that triggers a reaction in your brain. And it's in that show, it's the bell ringing of the door, that they show a specific sequence of what happens after the bell rings. Then you see Tony's face, he looks, and then you see what he's looking at. And they do it multiple times so that you don't even know you're doing it, but your brain picks up on this happening, and so you expect certain things to happen. You expect that when the bell rings, you see Tony's face, and then you see what he's looking at. Here, what you expect, what you don't even realize is being ingrained in your mind, is that when those zooming actions happen, it means that some tension is there. And you don't know why, but there's tension there. And that's going to come into play as soon as the 1980 word hits the screen. We'll get there when we get there, but it's incredibly important, and he sets it up with the camera here.
So now Henry owns a bar. And they're in that bar drinking, having a good time. Tommy walks in with a date, and there's some wise guy down at the end of the bar who apparently knows Tommy from back in the day and gives him some shit because he used to shine shoes, apparently.
Yeah.
And of course, this is a major actor from all sorts of mob movies and The Sopranos too.
Yeah, this dude I've seen everywhere. Like, he seems like one of the go-to guys, you know? I mean, I would say the same thing about Paul Sorvino. It's like, oh, gangster movie? Let's put this dude in it, you know? It's like, there's so many actors in this movie that are like that, though. So, it's just...
Paulie Walnuts is in here. Yeah.
I mean, this is a casting call. I think this guy, gosh, I want to say that he was in LA Confidential, but that could be totally wrong. He just seems like he's been in like tons and tons of this sort of thing. Apparently, he did voices for Grand Theft Auto. That's what I remember when I looked up this dude, which makes perfect sense, right? I mean,
yeah.
Grand Theft Auto is kind of like living out these gangster movies, so to a certain degree.
Tommy's like, you need to quit, busting my balls. He's like, oh, I'm just busting your balls. I'm just kidding. He's like, now go get your fucking shoe shine box.
Yeah.
And then Tommy, he smashes his glass. He's like, that's it, mother...
Yeah.
Hold me back.
It's great.
So then he's like, keep him here. I'll be back. So he takes his floozy home. I'm guessing he has to sex with her. Because why wouldn't he? And then they get the guy good and drunk. His buddies leave. And then he's still left there talking about whatever. And then, bam. Tommy comes back through the door, stands right behind him, little up in his face. He's like, "Oh, hello," and then he beats the shit out of him.
As Jimmy holds him, yeah,
and Jimmy comes in too, but Ray Liotta's not doing anything. Henry's not doing anything, right? He's just observing again, which is again interesting. Like the interests me, like the way that he's kept out of so much of the violence. Henry Hill is. It almost makes you wonder, and I know you have to wonder when you're watching a movie based on somebody's story about what happened.
Yeah, is he trying to paint himself in a more positive light?
Like, how reliable is this narrator we have here? Like, I'm sure he's vaguely reliable, but like the way he's always kind of on the periphery and he's not doing the real dirty work. It's like, I don't, it's that old saying, consider the source. It's kind of odd, like... Did he have more involvement in this than we actually know, or what? I don't know. I don't think that really hurts the movie, anything like that. But it's just you kind of wonder when he's always not involved in this main stuff, like most of the time. He's kind of just observing. I don't know. It seems a little sketchy to me, but... So
after that, they scoop up the dead body. Sorry, man, I didn't mean to get blood on the floor.
I love when he says that. I think that line is important because it gives you a viewpoint into Tommy's character. And he is... It comes off really genuine. Like, I'm sorry about the blood on your floor. Who the f*** cares about the blood on the floor? It's like...
You just murdered someone in the first...
Ray Liotta does such a great job with his look at him, like... What?
He's like, fucking really?
There's a dead maid mobster on my floor. I don't give a f*** about the blood on the fucking floor.
Yeah, I'll clean that up. Just get out of here so I don't get hit too. But that's, again, this is another scene where you have something very mundane, like cleanup, versus something very, very weird and foreign to us, which is somebody getting, basically murdered in this little bar. He doesn't die immediately, I'm not dead yet, that sort of thing. But
you don't know that.
You don't.
At this time.
Don't at this point. But you kind of do. It depends on how well you've connected the dots up to this point. Because, you see him get stabbed and shot and I think...
Well, yeah, but I don't really remember the dude's face.
It seems like you did get some little shot, though, because I was like, oh, that guy. Maybe that's the guy in the trunk. Like, maybe that was just like an instinctive thing, but I felt like that they were hinting to you that this is how this was all going to reconnect. To that first scene. I don't know though. Maybe I'm off there, but that's kind of how I remember when I was watching it. Going, oh, okay, I see. This is how we're going to get back to that first scene where they're all in the car. So
yeah. Then after that, they're like, oh, we'll go by my mom's house, pick up a shovel. So they go to Tommy's mom's house, and for some reason she doesn't keep a shovel in the garage,
and she's awake and ready to make them dinner. Oh, I love it. This is Scorsese's mom, by the way. I'll throw out that trivia since somebody had to do it. But this is exactly what I'm talking about. Like, they have a fucking dead body in their trunk. They have blood all over them from a human. And I hit a deer, Mom. Don't worry about it. You know, and they're like sitting down to eat this elaborate dinner that looks fantastic.
I do love me some Italian food.
And they have a fucking dead body in the car, though. It's like the contrast between, like, we can all understand. I mean, most of us anyways can understand, like, getting a nice home cooked meal from your mom is really important. But if I have a dead body in the back of my car, I can kind of skip that, you know? But no. Food is important to Italians. Like, that's like what this scene tells me. It's just like, it's so important that I can put off burying this body. I can have dinner with my mom.
And his mom's like, so when are you going to settle down with find a nice girl and settle down? He's like, I go home, I settle down with nice girls all the time.
And he's like, ha 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 ha, you know, doing his petty laugh. Like,
she's like, well, when are you going to get married? He's like, I'm never going to get married. I love you, Ma.
Yeah, you're the woman for me. You know, that's it's great.
And she's like, Henry, you don't talk much, do you? And he seems to be in a bit of, shock because there's a dead body on the car.
You're right. It's crazy.
This is another completely ad-lib scene, too.
It's amazing, too.
Joe Pesci with the skills, and Scorsese's mom with the skills.
Yeah, she's good. She's good at ad-libbing.
She really does come off as, you know, it's the mom you love.
Yeah.
You know, we all know her. We all love her. You go and you eat her food, and she asks you about your family. You know, it's, really good. And I think it actually humanizes Tommy a lot, this scene. So it makes his death much more impactful.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the only person he doesn't go crazy in front of is his mom.
Yeah.
Well, his mother comes into play in that right before he goes and gets killed.
Right.
And she's there and talking to him. It really does a lot to make you give a shit about his death.
I totally agree. I think it's interesting because how do you humanize such a piece of shit? But they do as good a job as you can do.
You get his sweet old mom.
Get him with his mom. That's right. Good point.
And then, boom, we're back at the beginning of the movie.
Yep. Stab, stabby, stab.
Stab, 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 shoot, shoot, shoot. Some awesome little shots of, like, the... as it flashed, like, there'll be a white flash, and it shows this quick shot, and then flash again, and then it shows something else, and then they're digging a hole. It's awesome. The guy they killed was a maid guy.
Yeah.
You don't mess with the maid guy.
Not smart. Not smart.
And then next you see some sort of gathering at Paulie's house. Hey! And then Paulie's asked about some guy, it doesn't matter what his name is, the guy they whacked.
Billy Bats, I think is his name, isn't it? Billy Bats.
Billy Bats. Yep, it's Billy Bats. Yep.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Because apparently somebody's asking Paulie about it, and they're like, oh, he came in the bar, he got drunk, he left. Who knows? And then, bam, we got to go dig up that body. Because someone bought the land and they want to put condos on it. It's been 6 months. Nah, it doesn't matter. Let's go get it.
It was great listening to the audio here. This is another really good point where Henry Hill's explaining how, we had to go dig them up because we didn't have lye with us when we buried them. And usually we would bury them and put lye on them, and that will just dissolve the body. And it was just one of those little tidbits where it's like, holy Jesus, man, this dude is telling the truth. Like, this happened. You know, they used to carry lye around with them so that they could put it on the bodies, but they just didn't have it that day.
Did you immediately think of I hope you immediately thought of Fight Club, because I can't think of lye without thinking of Fight Club and that scene where he holds his hand down and pours the lye on it. And that's, if I'm going to associate anything with lye, there you go. It's that scene. But I didn't know that gangsters would probably take that around with them to dissolve bodies. I mean, makes sense. It's logical.
Well, it's bad news if the body is found.
Yeah, right. Obviously.
And I love this scene as they're digging it up because the red light, and Ray Liotta's like blowing chunks, and they're all laughing, having a good time.
Yeah.
Hey, I found an arm, I found a leg, I found a wing.
I think you're right about the red light thing. I'd never even thought about it, but there's no gore.
None.
There's absolutely no gore in this scene, but you certainly come away from it feeling like there was gore in it. But maybe it's the red light, and
then the whole thing again. It's like Henry Hill is removed. Like, he's not really one of these guys. Like, that's the continuing narrative. He's puking his guts up because this is so he can't handle it. The other guys are like, what the fuck is your problem? This is everyday shit we do. How can you not be used to this by now, Henry? Like, you've been in this life forever. And then again, I question the reliability of the narrator here and how much he's telling us that, but I was a good guy. I was off to the side, puking my guts up because that's a normal human response to this sort of fucked up situation. But was he really? Or, I don't know. It doesn't matter for the movie. It actually helps the movie that he's the humanized character. So
prior to this, I didn't make a note of it, but we've realized that Goodfellas have girlfriends. Some nights are for wives, some nights are for girlfriends.
Mistresses, yes.
Mistresses. So Henry buys his girlfriend an apartment, or his mistress an apartment, and it's a very nice shagadelic 70s swing and disco pad.
Oh yeah, totally.
All the houses in this totally fit like the time period. It's like 1960, here's our house, and oh bam, it's the 70s, here's our new house.
Well, that's something that Scorsese in this movie has done a tremendous job of, is that every time period that they're in feels 1,000% authentic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't live in the 50s, but man, does that look like the 50s.
It feels like what the 50s should look like. No, this is one of the first things that I've started praising about this movie when I was watching it with my wife, is that like even the music selection is so good. Like every time you switch to a time period, you have music from that time period, but it's not in like some sort of like offhand way. It feels so, deliberate, that you just feel like, God, Scorsese is totally in control of this movie, and he wants you to feel like this is the 70s, and he just made you feel like this is the 70s. There's no other way you can feel about these scenes. Like they're so centered in their time period, and like, the famous scene that I've heard a lot of people talk about is the fact that they use the outro to Layla when a lot of the cocaine is going down, and like that's. Well,
that's not when the cocaine stuff is going down. That's when they're finding all those dead bodies.
Well, both. It's used later on, too. It's used twice. And it's like, that makes sense to me for that time period. And, like, I was looking through, like, this page that had a list of, like, all the different songs that were played in the movie and what scenes they were played in. And it was totally, it's just perfect. And, like, I felt that while I was watching the movie anyways. So it just confirmed what I already thought.
Well, if you watch Scorsese movies, he really takes a lot of interest in the movies. The music in the movies he makes. It's not like original music or anything like that.
No.
But like his soundtrack is usually something he picks. Like in The Departed, he was really big about using like Irish rock bands and stuff like that.
Like the Dropkick Murphys.
Like those guys.
Yeah, and when I saw Hugo, the music was very good, although it was understated, not the same sort of thing. But definitely, like you can, it just feels to me like Scorsese cares about the whole overall story so much that he couldn't let something go. And I haven't seen a bad Scorsese movie because I haven't seen that many of them. But it would be interesting to see what you guys think would be his worst movie. That I could watch and check out and be disappointed with.
I would go with Aviator.
Yeah, I could see that one.
And I haven't seen Aviator, so that's DiCaprio, right?
Yeah, that's DiCaprio.
And
his boy.
Yeah, he really loves his DiCaprio, which
Well, I think going to the soundtrack thing, I think that what you're seeing with Scorsese in this movie and in most of his movies is that the soundtrack plays a role in telling the story. Whether even if it's just slightly, like we were talking about, it being part of the soundtrack of that time period, it still helps to tell the story. I think most films look at their soundtrack more as a way to complement what you're watching, and Scorsese goes one step further. And not only does it complement what you're seeing, but it also helps tell the story.
Yeah, it's thematically relevant, and it's also like the mood wise too. I would say it has a huge effect, like going from these kind of the 50s songs that are just like kind of carefree to a little bit more heavier stuff as we go along in the film. So it fits with the aesthetic of the film, and then it just really does make you feel like you're watching a very careful filmmaker, which is, I know we belabored this point so much, but it's totally the opposite of how you feel about Lucas when you're watching the prequels. You're like, this guy is sloppy. Like, even though I like the prequels, like I admit they're sloppy. They're just not. There's no way he's taking this sort of precision with it. So I
don't know. I kind of got some goosebumps in this one when "Sunshine of Your Love" comes on by Cream.
Oh yeah.
And it's slow, like there's a lot of slow motion or anything in this movie, but like he slows De Niro down while he's in there just smoking that cigarette, giving that, like basically looking in Ray Liotta's direction.
Oh yeah, it's really good, really cool,
awesome.
Yeah, yep, totally agree.
All right, so next, the first scene with Spider, where Tommy's like, "Hey, go give me a drink," and then Spider goes over and doesn't.
God, he's so fucking slow, or whatever. He's
like, what? He's like, what? Did you not hear me? You fucking ignoring me? He's like, do I not do the things I say not matter? And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I thought you said you're good, Spider. No, you're not good. Why would I say that to you?
This is one of those scenes where you can watch a movie and there will be certain things that happen in it that with the majority of filmmakers out there is just filler. and our main character's not in this room. There's no real story progression that's happening in this room. You could absolutely make the case that the spider scenes could be taken out of this movie and it wouldn't affect the movie. So why didn't Scorsese take them out? Because we were set up for this. This is our counterpoint to the scenes earlier, and Spider is, in my viewpoint, Spider's us. Spider's the viewer.
Yeah.
We can't handle this anymore. And Spider's reaction to what's going on here is completely reasonable, and it feels very genuine, and he dies because of it in the next scene, in the next time we see Spider.
Well, don't you also think, though, that this is like the way that Jimmy is just going down this dark path, and that this is like, okay, so he already killed the made man, right? And now he's just killing...
You're talking Tommy?
Tommy. Oh, excuse me. Sorry. Tommy, Jimmy, what the... who cares?
Well, there's a big difference, because Tommy shoots Spider, Jimmy does not.
You could make the argument, though, that you don't need this for the viewer to think that Tommy's a bad character.
But the character progression is much better because of this. Because, his idea is that, this shows you how little respect he has for human life, even more so. Because before it was like this guy who was, really, really, putting him in his place. And he was like, fuck that. You're not putting... Now he's just shooting a guy because he would have the audacity to say something, back to him at all. It's not even
I agree with you, absolutely.
It's the next step of the progression of the character. I see how it could be taken out, but I don't think Tommy would be as despicable if it were not for this scene. I think this scene actually makes him more despicable. It adds to the character. But I do see your point that you could take it out and you would still have essentially the same movie and essentially the same brilliance. But this scene is so important to me in terms of how I feel about him as a character. When he shoots Spider, you're like, what? No. You've totally gone over the edge to the point where I can't even understand you in the gangster culture. Before you're like, oh, I get it, he's part of this gangster. Now it's you just shoot people because you're mad at them. What the f***? This is beyond, it almost vindicates when he gets whacked later. You're like, yeah, well, this guy, he didn't play by the rules and he gets whacked because of it. And it's even though this isn't the reason why he gets whacked, it makes sense. It's he can't even, this guy's such a sociopath that he cannot follow the rules of gangsters, which are so their morality is totally different, so far off from ours. So I think it's really powerful in that way. I do see the story angle that you could cut this out and it wouldn't kill the story or do anything significant, but I love the fact that it gives you more development on his character, on Tommy's character.
With Tommy's character, one of the themes of this movie is how dangerous mobsters are, right? And that Henry Hill was mixed up in this lifestyle and that he is in danger once we get to the end. And the argument that could be made about this scene is that Tommy murdering this person then puts him into this psychopathic level that when he's killed, we don't feel as if Henry Hill is in danger because he's gone so off the reservation that, yeah, that dude had to get killed. So, here's my point with why I think that the average editor and the average filmmaker would say, no, this scene has to be taken out, is because with this scene, it doesn't relate to the main story. It doesn't affect Henry Hill. The only thing that it does affect is it affects our reaction to Tommy's death because we don't feel as bad about it. Like you said, we kind of feel like, yeah, he deserved to die. It actually has a negative effect to the storyline of Henry Hill because we're supposed to feel like he's in danger. So it has a negative effect to that. So my point with this is that where most filmmakers would come in here and say, "Now we got to take these two spider scenes out because they don't relate to the film." What I think Scorsese did was say, "No, we have to keep this in because this is where we're showing the viewer that you can't survive this, that you are nowhere close to being able to deal with this world, and it's incredibly dangerous all throughout." We aren't supposed to identify with Tommy here. We are supposed, or Jimmy. Yeah. Which are the only two characters that are in this scene that are main characters of the movie.
Oh, no. When they shoot Spider, Henry's there.
No, he's not.
Yeah.
No, he's not.
Oh, yeah.
He's not in the room playing cards with them at that point.
He is in the room playing cards with them, because the first scene, he's not in it. And then the second scene, he is, because, like, it's right after... Well, it's in a few scenes after he has that first, like, knockout, drag out with his wife.
I think the point that might be getting lost here, though, is that this like, little respite of false sense of security for Henry, because we, as viewers, are then going, well, you know, Tommy got it because he went too far. You know, Henry's not safe. Like, and this is, but what I'm saying is that it's a false sense of security, and like that becomes clear very quickly. I don't think they let you linger on that, but it's like you keep wanting Henry to be okay, you know, like you keep kind of deep down in the back of your mind, you want him to get out of this all right, you know, and so like these little scenes like this give you this sense that like, oh, it might be okay for Henry, you know, it's like maybe this tragedy will turn around, but it doesn't, and like I think that's effective. I think it helps, and I see your point, totally see your point, but I love what this scene does to all of the characters involved. I know it's only tangentially related, but it does make you feel like, oh, maybe Henry's got a little bit of a chance, and that even makes it more like menacing when you get the feeling that, oh, he's in big trouble, like he's going to be the next one to get whacked, you know, like it's that momentary, you know, calm before the storm that is the proverbial calm before the storm that's just so perfect for this. I totally get your point, Jitterbug, but I do think it does a little bit more than just change our reaction to Tommy's death.
I think you're agreeing with me while you're trying to argue with me about it, though, because my
we do that all the time.
With this scene, my only point here is that you, the viewer, do not associate yourself with anyone in that room other than Spider. Spider is the one that you put yourself into, because we as normal, rational people can no longer associate with Jimmy or with Tommy. We cannot get on their side.
What about Henry, though?
Naturally associate... Henry's not there. I want to watch that scene again, because I'm pretty positive Henry's not in these scenes. And so we associate and we sympathize with Spider, because we see his reactions and we think, yeah, that he's reasonable. He's the good guy in these scenes. That's what we're meant to see, and he dies, and that's why these scenes are important. It has nothing to do with Tommy being the one that did
right,
it.
But I guess my point is not. I don't even remember if Henry is in the scene or not, and I don't even care.
He's not in the first one. He's in the second one.
But for me, I don't care about that, because like that's not the point that I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is that like the idea that Henry is now safer because of the fact that he doesn't break the rules of the mob, etc., is like a false sense of security, because as he goes on, he breaks the rules and then he gets in trouble again. So this is actually a good cautionary tale, so to speak. Like, you know, when he starts getting into the drugs, like whether or not he's there or not, I think you still want to like Henry, even the bad he's done, you know, like you.
But I think that we would all agree, though, that when this scene happens, don't you guys also immediately sympathize with Spider? Isn't he the sympathetic character, the more relatable character?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah. I think that adds to it, though. I think
that's my only point. That's the reason that these two scenes are there, is because of that. It is the point of this movie where you no longer associate with any character in this, and you now find yourself associating with the victims.
Yeah,
and that's why these scenes exist, and that's why Scorsese has them in the movie.
I'm gonna leave my comment though out there that there's a possibility that Scorsese was aware that this makes us feel like that Henry is going to be safe in all this, and that gives you, the viewer, a sense of, oh, okay, so Henry's going to be okay. And then when he starts breaking the rules and gets fucked up, then it's like a, oh no, he's not really safe. It's like, again, the idea of building and lowering tension. And, you know, maybe you're right. Maybe that's the only reason this is in here. But I could see a bigger picture thing going on here. Possibly. You know, of course, this is all interpretation, so I'm not saying that I'm right or anything, but I think that's still a possibility to leave out there.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not right, but I'm pretty sure I'm right.
Well, I mean, you're right, but I think there might be more stuff to be right about in this scene. That's what I'm saying. That's all.
I mean, nonetheless, with whatever there is, it certainly, Tommy is a character that we don't like, and this absolutely exemplifies why we don't like him.
This is the nail in the coffin, too.
Yeah, when he gets killed, it's like, good, he deserved it, you know.
When he shoots the tequila guy, you know, you really start going, you don't shoot the tequila guy. You don't
the
do
1800
that.
guy.
The 1800 or whatever it is that he's...
Yeah, so is it Henry, then, that bends down and is like, he's dead to Spider? And
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Oh, who was right? I was. Okay, so before we got ahead of ourselves. So, while Spider's over getting the drink, Tommy's like, dance for me! And he pulls out his pistol, just start shooting, and hits Spider right in the foot.
He's like, what's the big deal? I shot him in the foot.
Yeah.
Is this the first time that someone's been shot in the foot? Come on. Just, you know, what's the big deal? Let's clean it up.
He's taken to the hospital, and then bam, we're at Henry's house. His wife is pissed, and she throws his keys out in the yard. She's like, you haven't been home in 2 weeks. And he's like, you think I'm not going out because you threw my keys out the window? You are wrong. And then she starts making accusations, and he gets pissed and throws a lamp at her and misses. And then she's like, get out. He's like, I was leaving anyway. And then the next is him going, ha, 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 and he's at the card table. And then Spider's back, and he's hobbling about, and Tommy's giving him shit. And he goes, go fuck yourself. And then Jimmy's like, ho, 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 here, this is for you. Like, he tips him because he just slammed Tommy, and he's like, you gonna take that? And then Tommy pulls out a 45 and fucking blows Spider away. Then he's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Making a joke. He gets mad, but he doesn't get mad enough to actually do anything about it. He's like, you go bury the fucking body. I don't have any lie. And Henry was in that scene, so Jitterbug, suck it.
All right.
Karen, in the next scene, Karen goes to Henry's girlfriend's apartment to confront her. So she's just sitting there at the buzzer.
The true story here is that Henry was in the apartment at the time, and when she started hitting the buttons, she knew he was there because his car was there, and he ran out the back door and ran home, and then just told her that he left her car there. But so when she came back home, he said that he wasn't there. A funny little true story. But I love Lorraine Bracco does a great job here. You can really feel her anger in this scene where she's slamming on all those buttons.
There's a whore that lives in whatever room she lives in.
Yeah. But, I mean...
And then she's holding... the one thing I love about that scene is that she's got her kids with her.
Yeah.
She's holding her kid's hand while she's yelling these things. So it really is like, that's not the same girl we met, an hour ago. She's changed.
Yep.
So, yeah.
And you can tell that by the next scene where Henry's taking a nap at home, and he wakes up to find a pistol in his face, and Karen's standing over him.
Yeah, this is an intense scene. I like this scene. This is really well done.
Like, he's real calm, collected. Come on, baby, I love you. And she's crying and tears and shaking.
And then finally when, he wrestles the gun away from her and he just, tosses her off and is like, whatever. The cop, you didn't have this shit. What are you trying to pull a gun on me? What the fuck? I love how he's like, it's okay, honey. It's fine. Oh, I'll kill you. It's amazing.
This to me is the scene where, and maybe I'm a little bit more sensitive to spousal abuse than other people for whatever reason, but this is the scene where, to me, Henry Hill's character goes from being this kind of, okay, he's never involved in any of the violence to, holy crap.
Yeah, no, I definitely lost something for him there.
I feel like Lorraine Bracco is in the situation that all these other people have been in, like Spider was in, with Tommy.
Or that Henry Hill was in with Tommy earlier. Yep.
Yeah.
Totally.
So, and now suddenly it's Henry Hill that's in the Tommy role, and it's a really interesting juxtaposition to the rest of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm in 100% agreement. It's just you hate him here. You don't. You're done. You're done with this guy. If we are slowly losing touch with this character, this is for me, this is the last straw. It's, I guess it's vaguely irrational the way she responds, but you can definitely understand it. He's cheating on her and blah blah blah, But on the other hand, did you guys at all feel like, and I know this sounds like I'm blaming the victim, but just again that she knows what she's involved in here.
Oh, she says, but she says she can't leave. She won't leave him.
I know, but that's the whole thing. Like, why is she fucking putting a gun in his head then? Like, it's almost like if she's cool with him providing her with all these things, and then of course he's got his mistress on the side, and she's so angry about it. It's like I almost feel like she doesn't have a right to be as angry about it as she is. Obviously, I don't think he has the right to treat her the way that he does, but it's like there's a definite obvious give and take, and the fact that she seems so appalled and shocked at all this based on the other stuff he does, it's like, really, this was it? But I mean, I guess it's the whole, we talked about this before, the jealousy and this really primal feeling of that's my husband, he's mine, like
I'm not going to leave him. Why should she get it?
Yeah, exactly. So it just, I mean, I do hate Henry Hill in this scene, but at the same time, I'm thinking, well, gosh, she kind of signed up for this.
See what she was wearing, Your Honor? She was asking for it.
Yeah, I know I'm starting to sound like that, and it's making me angry, but it does seem like, don't you guys feel a little bit like she knew what she was signing up for this whole time?
Well, that's the classic, and it's a cliche because it's true, where that's what mob wives generally kind of their storyline is that they don't like all the stuff that their husbands do, but you kind of shake your head at them and say, you like the money, and you like the lifestyle, you knew what you were signing in for. So yeah, she definitely goes through that progression and that classic story arc.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they even have the scene where, well, it's coming up later, when he gets out of jail and she's bragging to her family about the stone wall that moves to reveal the TV and everything.
Yeah, well, that's the scene where I lose my any sort of like sympathy I have for her, because that's the scene where I feel like, oh, she is now those women that she was earlier making fun of. Like,
well, they have an even more intense scene than that one, which I think we passed up, where Henry Hill is about to leave the house, and she says, oh, I just want a little bit of money to go shopping. How much? This much. And then he gives it to her, and she bends down and gives him a blowjob.
Oh, and then she goes down.
Yeah, and then she gets down on her knees and gives him a blowjob, and that's clearly the moment where the movie's telling us, yeah, she knows what she's in. I mean, it's her whoring herself out for money. That's the implication of that scene. Now, I know they're married, and giving a blowjob to your husband is not whoring yourself out.
But if they give you money right before you do it, I'm pretty sure it's the same thing. Like, I don't care if they're married. Like, that scene is an indicator that she has become, a de facto prostitute, regardless of their marital status. It's like if you go, hey, I want this much money, and then you get it, and then you give the dude who gave you that much money a blowjob, that's a prostitution transaction. I don't know how to adverb the word prostitution, but that's what adjective, excuse me, it's
prostatize.
Yeah, that's what a prostitute does. Like, there's no difference here except for the amount of money involved, the fact they're married. Like, it just, there's no difference. It's you I mean, you're right, that is more intense, but for some reason the whole materialistic thing gets me more. Like, it gets me more that she's like, oh, look at all this cool shit I have that I would have totally made fun of before,
Well, it's interesting because the scene where she's showing off all of their riches right after she was so poor is the dirty scene. That's the scene that's slimy. For whatever reason it is, although there was the blowjob scene that comes before that, and I agree with you, that doesn't hit you as hard. It doesn't make you feel as dirty as the scene where she's telling her family about how rich they are now.
Yeah. Well, because maybe it's because that scene with the blowjob happens before there's any sort of schism between the two of them. So, like, you feel like, oh, she's giving him a blowjob because of the money and because she loves him.
You hear that, ladies? Nothing says I love you like a blowjob. Steak and a BJ Day, March 14th. Put it on your calendar.
Oh, man, that's
all the time we have for this episode. We'll be back with the fourth and hopefully final episode of fourth. Actually, yeah, this will be episode 4. Hey, that works out. No, it won't. This will be the 5th episode.
The definitely final.
This will be the 5th episode of Flix, the 4th part of the Goodfellas thing. Yep. And we'll see you then.
You and your ears are quite welcome for the podcasting goodness that you just heard. why not roll on over to BigRedBarel.com for more podcasts, news, reviews, and videos from the biggest, reddest site on the internet, BigRedBarel.com.